had a friend of mine a couple of days ago who asked me, JT, how far do you think the Jaguars can go in the postseason this year? And that is a really good question. Now, Jacksonville, they're going to be hosting the Los Angeles Chargers at home for Wild Card Weekend. You got Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence. Justin Herbert pretty much has cemented himself this season as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Meanwhile, you have Trevor Lawrence, who is in ascension mode. And the Jaguars going into the playoffs right now remind me a lot of those Indianapolis Colts teams when they had Andrew Luck really early into his career. Now, if you remember those Colts teams, they weren't all that talented. Yeah, they had a couple of good pieces here and there, but they never really had one of the best rosters in the NFL during Andrew Luck's tenure there. Well, his earlier years there. You look at Jacksonville, their defense had a good performance against the Tennessee Titans, and this defense can play well at times. However, this defense has been up and down for the majority of this season. This team is Trevor Lawrence or bust, just like how those Andrew Luck Indianapolis Colts teams were Andrew Luck or bust. How far the Jaguars can go in the postseason this year all depends on the performance of Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence comes in and he lights up the Chargers and he lights up whoever they play in the divisional round or the conference championship, I think there's a small possibility that maybe Jacksonville could reach the conference championship game. This is a team that has a good supporting cast that supports Trevor Lawrence well. You got a pretty solid group of receivers, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones. You also got Evan Ingram, who's having pretty much the best season that he's ever had as a pro. The offensive line is okay. You got Travis Etienne at running back. So there's definitely some really good players on this team that are around Trevor Lawrence. Now, the defense has a couple of guys too, such as Josh Allen. Rayshawn Jenkins has been pretty good. But if the Jaguars are trying to make a deep playoff run, it's all going to hinge on the shoulders of Trevor Lawrence. And that's pretty much what you expect from a young team at this point like Jacksonville. This is a team that kind of rallies behind their young quarterback. And if their young quarterback doesn't play well, then more times than not, they're not going to win too many games. You look at the Jacksonville Jaguars' best games from the regular season, when they came back against the Ravens and the Cowboys, they all had fantastic performances from their star quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. When you look at the games that the Jaguars have struggled to win or the games that they've lost, Trevor Lawrence didn't play necessarily great in those games. Now, the Jaguars are a team that I don't think anybody should take lightly. And as a matter of fact, I think they got a very good chance of beating the Chargers, even though the Chargers are looking pretty good right now. They're now starting to get healthy. So this is probably the best version of the Chargers that we're going to see on the field against Jacksonville that we've seen pretty much all year. The Jaguars, though, one thing that they do know how to do is win close games if you allow them to hang around. Another thing that Jacksonville does really well is that this offense is really explosive at times. And for the Chargers defense, this defense has been prone to giving up some big plays, especially in the passing game. So for the Jaguars, if they can get past the Chargers, okay, then maybe you got a chance. I really think anybody can win the Super Bowl this year. All right, you saw what Cincinnati did last season, year 2, with Joe Burrow. I mean, nobody really expected them to go as far as what they did. You look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, if they could beat the Chargers, could they beat Kansas City? I mean, unlikely, but there's a possibility there. I mean, yeah, Kansas City got them in the first matchup, but second go around, Jacksonville's offense could click, and they could end up scoring some points on Kansas City's defense that I don't really think is all that great. I mean, if they play the Bills, the Bills may be the most talented team in the AFC from a roster standpoint, but they have the tendency to play down the competition. The Bengals could be an interesting matchup. I just think that the Jaguars really match up well with pretty much any team in the AFC outside of maybe the Chiefs and the Bills. And I don't really think, it's not a bad matchup if they were to play the Chiefs just because of that defense. I definitely think that Trevor Lawrence could have a better performance this go around against the Chiefs. So when it comes to determining how far Jacksonville is going to go in the playoffs this year, it all hinges on how well Trevor Lawrence performs.